Hey buddy, it's Peter, and this is my 2022 Kawasaki Z900RS SE. It's in the yellow ball paint scheme that the British like to call it, but I think we call it something different here. Anyways, this is my last video that I will be making of this specific bike. See, this bike is sold now, and I will be bringing a new bike to the channel, and I'm going to use that new bike on this channel a whole lot more. So in this video, I'm not going to talk about the new bike. We'll do that in a future video, so feel free to subscribe for that. In this channel, if you've never been here before, I review everything I possibly can motorcycle wise. I'm going to review everything for 2025 that I possibly can. So if that sounds interesting, hit subscribe. And if you want to just help the channel, just watch to the end. There's lots of videos on this channel. Just watch them to the end. That really helps me out. All right. So what are we going to do in this video? In this video, I'm going to talk about what I love about this bike, and in 2025, what I think Kawasaki has to change about this bike to keep pace and keep up. So there are things that are not perfect about this bike, but a lot of it is, and I think you'll be surprised to find out what I'm switching to. It's not this, that's for sure. Something totally different. So again, on this channel, don't get too attached to the motorcycles that I buy. I buy them, I'll ride them for a couple years, and then I'll move on to something else and try something different. And you know, maybe this will work its way back into the lineup. But to do that, I think it would have to upgrade a few things. So let's get going with this general review of what I like and what I don't like. So one of the things I think I should be clear about is, why did I buy this bike? What was I looking for when I bought it? And that will also help you determine if you're like me or if you're totally different than me. So one of the things I liked about this style bike is I've always wanted a big 4-cylinder bike, you know, sport bike type thing. But as I'm getting older and have had some back issues that are basically resolved now, I didn't want something that leaned me way over. I wanted something comfortable but sporty. And this bike is exactly that. This is a fully modern sport bike underneath with retro styling, but it also gave me an upright seating position. Those were all things that I was really looking forward to, and they really kind of met what I wanted at the time. And you know, I have no regrets about that. One thing I will say is this engine here, you know, they talk about it being detuned from the Z900. I do think it's perfect for the street. It works really well, over 100 horsepower, like 110 horsepower. The regular Z900 at the time had around 127 horsepower, but the torque on this one is peak torque reached 1,000 RPM lower. So you've got this just torquey bike. And I've described this bike a lot in the past, sort of like my Porsche. This is my, you know, this is my sport bike kind of thing, but it's really more of a muscle bike, muscle car type comparison, if you want to go that way, instead of a Porsche type thing. And that's really because it's kind of makes a nice noise just in stock form, and it's got that muscle, you know, the same as this is an inline 4. That's like the V8 of the motorcycle world. So that's kind of what this thing is, and it served its purpose well, but sometimes that purpose can be a narrow focus. But this bike does have a few good things and a few not so good things. So a couple of the things I really like about this SE model, obviously the styling of it is great. The gold wheel, I mean, maybe it's great, maybe it's not. Maybe you don't like it, but a lot of people do. The gold wheels, the gold forks, the gold paint color here, or yellow paint color here, it all kind of works for me, and it's something different, and I really like that it was something different. Brembo brakes and Öhlins suspension are the big update. They say the front forks are retuned as well. That's really the big thing with the SE. I will say Öhlins suspensions, they're not cheap, but I think in a lot of cases they're worth it for the right rider. When you go around a corner on this thing hasn't got great tires. We'll talk about that a little later. But when you go around a corner on this, you really feel like that rear wheel is staying in touch with the ground, even on bumpy corners. And that's one of the things I really loved about it. That Öhlins suspension definitely makes it feel that sport bike kind of feel. Same with the Brembo brakes. Even when I don't use them to their full capacity, the feel is just great on the brakes. And again, when you're thinking of a sport type bike, you want that precision. So the precision in the suspension, the precision in the handling essentially through that suspension, and the precision in braking, that kind of thing. And then again, that good power, accelerating out of corners with just strong power. And really what makes this 4-cylinder kind of unique is you really don't have to rev it out. Obviously, if you do, it's a 4-cylinder, you know, Japanese sport bike, and it really revs out well. But it also has a lot of torque everywhere. You don't have to downshift anywhere. You just give it the gas and you've got plenty of power to go. So that's a couple things that I really like about it. Let's switch to a couple things I don't like. We'll kind of go back and forth here. So what are some things I don't like? Well, let's take a look. So let's take a look at the stock tire that's still on here. I decided I was going to keep the stock tire until it wore out. It is absolutely worn out now. It's right down to the center there. It is not got much left. So went around 7,000 kilometers for me of not super hard riding, but certainly when I come out of a corner, I do give it the gas, and that's really tough on tires. So this one's absolutely at the end of life. I will say the tires aren't as terrible as I thought, but there's a lot of room for improvement here. And one thing that frustrated me with Kawasaki is even bikes in the lower tier, even the exact lower model of this bike, the Z900RS, had better tires. These are Dunlop tires. They had better tires in the Dunlop lineup even than this bike. So it just doesn't make sense for this bike, which is premium priced in the Kawasaki lineup, to come with these tires. They can do better, and they should do better. So if we talk about what Kawasaki can do in the future to improve, tires are definitely a thing. These were fine. They were okay. They felt, you know, good enough handling, that kind of thing. But, you know, there's so much better tires they can have, and a lot of the competition just puts on better tires. This bike did not. And that's the thing that frustrated me, is even within Kawasaki's lineup, Kawasaki was putting better tires on other bikes. So tires are definitely something that I think as they move forward this bike, they're going to have to improve. The other thing that I think Kawasaki really should improve for the North American market, they're still making this bike in 2025 right now. It's a different paint scheme for a change, but this overall bike came out in North America in 2018. It is a 2022 model, and the 2025 model has the same signal lights. Everything in this class has LED signal lights, and the fact is, Kawasaki, again, everything lower in this class has LED signal lights, and this bike in Europe and other markets has LED signal lights. Still for 2025, you have the same lights as I did in 2022, which are the same lights as 2018. And again, the Europeans got LED lights. We have LED headlight, LED taillight, but not LED signal lights. For the price of this bike, that's a concern. And we're going to talk a lot about the price of this bike now, because that is what really matters in 2025. So we hit a couple positives, we hit a couple negatives. Let's talk about another positive section here. So one thing I like about this bike, and I'm on the center stand right now, is the seating position. For a sport bike, your legs aren't crazy tucked behind you, although the foot pegs are high enough that they're certainly out of the way of cornering, that kind of thing. The overall seating position places you a little bit forward, which is fine, especially since it's a naked bike. You know, you have that pressure. If you sit too upright, then all of a sudden you're kind of just hanging on. But it puts you just enough forward that basically any speed up to highway speeds are pretty comfortable. Like, it just works fine. I find anything under 100 kilometers an hour, 62 miles an hour is just a really perfect position, really comfortable position. Now, you can get wind protection on here and you can do various things, but that kind of leads me to another negative with this bike. One of the negatives is the engine. And what I mean by that is the engine is perfect. It's really good. It's really powerful. And what that means is, because you stick such a perfect engine in this bike, you want to tour on this bike. The problem with this bike is it's hard to set this thing up for touring without ruining the look. And one of the reasons to buy this bike is the look of it. So I have some soft luggage. I did a luggage video, how you can, you know, stick the soft luggage on here, but side bags just don't look right on this bike. And other issue is, it doesn't have cruise control. Now, I know a lot of you are gonna say the bike doesn't need cruise control, that's not what I'm buying it for, and that's totally fine. But to me, this SE model, when you step into that price range, we got some bugs out here. When you step into the price range of this SE model, a lot of bikes in its class start to have cruise control available. Now, this hasn't got an electronic throttle, so it's not gonna have a natural fit for cruise control, but to me, that's something that on the SE model you could do. You could put that cruise control on a bike like this in the future, or in a future model of this, and it would make it a more of a touring type machine. Again, you can put, because it has a round headlight, all kinds of aftermarket windshields can fit, including ones you could pop on and pop off. So you could sit there, put a windshield on this bike, get better wind protection at longer distances, and the engine can go highway speed, any speed, anywhere, and turn it into a sport touring kind of bike that you could really go distances on if you can figure out your luggage. But again, that's one of the negatives. So I'd like to see some electronics improvements. Let's take a look at the dash now as well. Again, things I like and things I think Kawasaki would have to improve. So taking a look at the dash in this is a Canadian bike. That means it does not have miles per hour, which means for whatever reason, normally we have kilometers and miles per hour in our analog displays, but this one only has kilometers an hour. And to be honest, it looks cleaner that way. The American bikes have miles per hour and kilometers per hour. I don't think that looks as nice, doesn't look as clean. I absolutely love the analog gauges, more because you don't read the numbers so much. You can just tell at a glance where you are in the rev range. You can tell at a glance where you are for speed. Again, you don't read the numbers. You just look at where that dial is. And some of these fancy TFT displays where they have maybe a graph like that or an individual number that you're reading, that can be harder. So as I turn the dash on here, somebody said to me in a video or on this video on this bike in the past, they hate the way the center of this dash flickers. Well, it doesn't flicker in real life. It, it does the way it interacts with cameras. So again, as we talk about 2025, when I bought this in 2022, this bike was a 2018 bike before, like it was redesigned or designed, I guess, for a 2018 release. And this hasn't changed. So this is a 2022 bike, 2025, there's no changes. To me, one of the changes they're gonna have to make here electronically is this here. What you don't have here are a number of things. Like I said, you don't have cruise control. You only have a traction control. There's no rider modes in here. And the rider modes maybe matter, maybe don't matter. You can just, deal with that. But one of the things that a bike in this price range, in this engine CC class, is getting pretty common with now is some sort of app connectivity that can tell you basic things like messages and other things, but also has basic navigation like turn-by-turn directions. And this may have to switch to a TFT display in the future, in my mind, to keep up with its competition and to justify the price. Again, this is not a super cheap bike anymore, and at this price range you have options. So one of the things we do know is the new Z900 from Kawasaki, not the RS model, but the new Z900 is getting app connectivity with turn-by-turn directions. It is getting cruise control. It's getting a lot of those things. It's getting the IMU, so it can sense the way the bike is slipping and moving and that kind of thing, and it can adapt traction control and ABS and that kind of thing. Those are all things that you would expect at the price of this bike, because the Z900 is less expensive than this bike and will have all of those things. So again, you're now paying a lot more for style. So we should talk about that really quickly. So when I bought this bike, the Z900 did have more power. This one moved power differently, and that didn't really bother me. When you get to this engine size, the peak power really matters less when you're taking it only on the roads. I mean, you're not full throttle almost ever in a bike like this, at least not for long periods of time, because you're so far beyond the speed limit, and maybe I'm just old and boring and that kind of thing. So it didn't really bother me, some of the differences between the Z900 and this as far as engine power, because essentially it was the same. Yes, it had a TFT display. Yes, it had rider modes. Not the end of the world. But in 2025, this bike remains unchanged from what you're seeing here, other than paint color. But you can get the Z900 and the Z900RS SE, Z900 SE, which has the same suspension package, and that has, like I said, cruise control. It has connectivity. It has app thing. It even has voice control, so you can tell it to, change the ride mode or something like that through voice. Now, I don't think people are going to be telling the thing to change ride mode through voice, but the point is it has extra connectivity, and that bike is still cheaper, and quite a bit cheaper than this bike. You're no longer paying more for just looks. You're paying more for looks and getting quite a few less features that I think should become standard in the class. Now, I assume this bike will be updated for 2026, that's my guess. But at 2025, there are things they need to do to move this bike, and it is starting to fall behind. Now, none of these reasons are reasons I'm selling the bike, but I have one more complaint before I go on with praise, and this is an accessory that I put on, and Kawasaki continues to make something that looks great but functions terribly, and they got to update this in the when they redesigned this bike. So let's show you that right now. All right, so I'm filming the wide angle here. That's why this bar end looks so long. It sort of skews the edges. I want to show you where I am, and we'll go right to the center of this display. This is aftermarket or accessory heated grips, and as you can see here, they fit in great with the control center. So you've got your selection stuff here, you've got your headlights and all that, you've got a flash to pass over here, and then you have your heated grips. I'm going to zoom right into that button because this is kind of ridiculous and has to be fixed. So this is a safety issue for me. So as you look at this button here, if I turn the heated grips on, some people will complain that they're not warm enough for the winter. I think they're fine, or not for the winter, for the cool weather. I think they're fine for the type of riding I do. I have good gloves with it as well. But let's just show you when I turn this on, you can see the orange light blinks. Now flash 3 times, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then it's gonna come solid green. But you can see it did that multiple flashing multiple times, and then it goes green. What that tells me is it's in level 3. Now, as I'm riding, let's say I want to turn it down. Well, it doesn't have a ton of feel when you have leather gloves on here. So let's say I tap it, let's just say I tap it once. You'll again see 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, it does this a bunch of times, and then it comes on green. Now they're already getting warm. I can feel them getting warm from where they were, but now it's on. So the problem I have with this is twofold. First of all, if you were just to glance down at this green light, what level are you on? Are you on level 1, level 2, or level 3? You don't know. There's no way of knowing. The other thing is, I'm not sure, sometimes going down bumpy roads and with my leather gloves on, did I hit it once? Did I hit it twice? Oh, now it's off. That's easy to tell, but did I turn them on? What level are they on? Are they on level 3? Are they on level 2? Are they on level 1? Well, looking down for the length of time it takes to go 3 flashes, 1, 2, 3, is all time you have to take off your eyes off the road and pay attention to this. You can't see if it's 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, or 1. So again, this is just a dumb design. You could put 3 little lights on here. You could put different colors on here. You could do a number of things, but in the future, what they really need to do is what everybody else is doing and build this Kawasaki accessory into what could be a TFT dash. You should be able to tell at a glance what level your heated grips are on and not have to sit there and stare at it while you're driving to see what you've done. It's a dumb system on a very clean looking panel, and again, it has not been improved. People have complained about this. It is something that needs to be improved. So that's one thing that I don't like about this. So if that sounds like a lot of complaints, it really shouldn't be. This thing has been phenomenal, but if we look at what I do for a living, I analyze bikes, and when I go to different dealers and I show the bikes to you, what I like to do is show you things like, for instance, the heated grips, and allow you to form your own conclusions. There's no sense that my bias gets in the way of what your opinion should be, because a lot of bikes are great. But since I spent my own money on this bike, I feel like I can be a little bit more critical. So let's just finish with the critical right now. What do I think Kawasaki should do with this bike in 2026 or beyond, whenever they redesign it? Well, first of all, I do think you need to put a TFT display in. A lot of people like that this didn't have one. I think it can keep the dials, but that center display should have some sort of navigation connectivity in there. And I wonder if on at least the SE model, if Kawasaki should put in that Z900 engine that does make a little more power. Now I get that it's probably made in different factories and you would be putting in different things in. This bike is not just a different tune. There are some different components in there, like a flywheel that's 12% heavier. There's a lot of things that are minorly different, but maybe that Z900 engine should be in the SE model to justify that extra cost. It should have cruise control at this price. It should have, you know, a number of those things, in my opinion. Now, will I get all that stuff in a redesign? I don't know, maybe we will, maybe we won't, maybe they won't redesign this at all, but I do think that we'll tweak it and move forward, and those are my opinions. Now, flip side is, what do I think about this bike? Well, it has been an absolute blast. Every time I ride it, I come home with a huge smile on my face, and as a sport bike, sport tour, sport exploring kind of bike, it's been phenomenal. But some of the things it doesn't have, like I said, the ability to truly sport tour with the luggage that I would want to have, doesn't fit on this bike the way I'd want, at least not to that ability. So you can sort of see where I'm heading with my next bike. If you follow this channel for a while, you probably won't be too surprised at the class of bike I'm heading towards, but you will probably be very surprised at the actual bike I choose. This one has, in my mind, the perfect power for what I wanted. I love the sound, I love the character, and when you're riding this bike with the gauges, with the power, with everything else, what you find is it brings you back to that throwback style bike, but it makes you feel like a fantastic rider. If you've driven the older bikes that had these style gauges in the past, they just didn't have the precision that this modern bike has, and that all makes you feel like a great rider on a great bike, and that's what this bike has been, an absolutely great bike, and that's why I've enjoyed it. Like I said, the problem in 2025 is going to be the cost of this, as other bikes, since this bike originally came out in 2018, this model came out in 2022, as the bikes have moved on, a long time has passed since 2018, it does need to update some things to justify the price in my mind. So, we'll be moving on to another bike. Let me know if I'm crazy, if you agree or disagree with some of my feelings on this bike. This is not a bike that I don't like. This will always be a bike I like, and if I could keep it in my garage, I would absolutely do so. But right now, you know, we're just keeping it nice and simple. And one of the things I want to do is go down to a bike that can do everything that I want it to do for me, and every bike's a compromise. So you'll see which compromises I made on the next video. So thank you for watching this video to the end. This is, you know, just the beginning of my next step. So the next step will come. I'm picking up the bike tomorrow. I don't think I'll do a video first day, but I will have a video out on that very soon. And that bike is something that will be on the channel quite a bit. I think there's more stories to tell with that bike. So that's what we're gonna do. So thanks everybody for watching. Say goodbye to my Z900RS SE, and next video, or soon in the videos, you'll see my next choice. All right, thanks for everybody for watching. Have a great day.